Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden.
Where we continue to follow the capture and killing of Osama bin Laden now.
Those are just some of the scenes overnight as thousands of Americans gathered in celebration of Osama bin Laden's death.
Former Navy SEAL Rob O'Neill says he has thought about the mission every day since that May Day in 2011.
For multiple conversations you had with Rob O'Neill over the past year and a half, how'd you get
access? And you described that his head kind of exploded when you hit him.
I actually hit him 3 times because I shot him twice when he was standing and once on the ground.
That is the fucking American badass right there.
Go, go, go. We are not going for fame and we are not going for bravado. We are going for the single mom who dropped her kids off at elementary school on a Tuesday morning, and then 45 minutes later she jumped to her death out of a skyscraper.
If you need help, hang up and then dial your operator.
I'm Rob O'Neill, and this is the Operator Podcast. Woo! Time flies because it is already episode 109 of the Operator Podcast, and I appreciate you sticking with me and joining me. I'm your host, Robert J. O'Neill, former U.S. Navy SEAL. The Operator Podcast because we are all operators, and I want to hear your thoughts. Like I mentioned, always go check out at the Operator Podcast on Instagram or at Mikuya on pretty much every social media, MCHOOYAH. Give me the comments and I will read them. It should be fun. Big week. It's always been a big week. It seems like now there's just no shortage of content on the World Wide Web and around the world. But I mean, even to the point that where I'm, is a lot of this stuff even real? Or are we living in a comedy? Is somebody just messing with us? I don't know. I mean, because I've done a couple different things. I travel. I'm getting back on the road, which is good. I love seeing people in transit because that's when just complete nonsense goes on. But people do generally get along other than transit or on the internet. Like, you know, when you're on the train, on the bus, on the plane, people are a bit antsy. But when you do certain stuff and get amongst it, people are actually pretty good. So it does make me wonder if a lot of the chaos and nonsense. I've been using the word chaos quite a bit. I'm going to try to tone that down. But it kind of makes me wonder what's real and isn't real. What are deep fakes and what aren't? Why are they distracting us? Why are they dividing us? What are they trying to prove? And the reason I bring this up is you may have seen a picture of my daughter Valor and I went to a pumpkin patch. And it is that time of year. You know, as soon as certain coffee places can start rolling out the pumpkin spice, like it's game on. So it's still September, but it's pumpkin patch time. The point I was making though, we went to this pumpkin patch and it was awesome. It was a Saturday. It was packed, and there was seriously, I think, every different walk of life represented. Every sex, every race, every gender. This is in New York, not the city. It was north of New York where I went to this farm, but everybody was there. We had old folks, we had kids, skinny people, fat people, ugly people, good-looking people. I'm not saying which one I am, but what I'm saying is we had a blast. Pumpkin houses, picking pumpkins, apple orchards. They had, I think what I posted was an apple cider with ice cream and then more apple cider and like topped with a sugar donut. So not necessarily keto, not even close to keto, delicious. But there was live music and there was, I didn't indulge in some of the adult type beverages of cider. You know, I'm with the baby and whatnot, trying to behave myself. So I had the normal cider, but people were allowed to do stuff like that, live music. The point I'm making is if that group of, let's call it 1,000 people were on a group tweet, a group X, a group post, they would have hated each other online. But being in the same place, everyone was just enjoying the festivities. Everyone was just good to each other. Everyone, you know, there was like barbecue shops and pizza joints. And like I said, the cider stuff, the ice cream, the donuts, like cash only, which is smart because, well, as we know, both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris aren't going to tax tips. But cash only because why would you give the IRS any more money? People doling out cash, eating fatty food, listening to really good live music and walking through apple orchards. Everyone got along. Everyone was cordial. Everyone was polite. And that's what I think people can do. No one was divisive. There wasn't There wasn't we weren't segregated by lines, which actually sounds ridiculous when you say it, in real life. But if you go online, everyone's trying to divide us, divide and conquer. It's a communist tactic. The point I'm making is it was awesome to be outside, and I'm not sure what's real and what's not. But a pumpkin patch is real. If you can do it, do it. Get there when it's still nice out, and bring your kids, get a donut, get some pumpkins. We did that. It was fun. I'm looking forward to doing more of that. As I get older, not quite in my twilight yet, but you never know. Every day's a gift. Who knows? That was fun. I'm going to be traveling this week. I traveled last week. I saw Creed last week. I mentioned that in Texas, and I found out, bear with me, that they're going to be playing next week in Connecticut. And they were so good. Creed was so good that I wanted to see him again, and I might. Then I found out my boy Tim Montana is opening for them. So I'm thinking about that. I was actually talking to Tim today. If you don't download Tim Montana's music, you're an asshole, because I'm serious. Yeah, he's one of my best friends, but his music's insane. And I was in the video Hillbilly Rich. If you get a minute, look at Hillbilly Rich. That's a pretty good story. Great song. All the songs are good. Back to my point. He's opening for them, and I might go. But I was talking to him today, and he said he was talking to his manager. This is maybe a year ago or whatever. And he said, hey, I think I have an opportunity to open for Creed. Should I do it? And his manager was like, I don't know. I mean, if you want to play to a sold-out arena, yes. And because, Creed is they're awesome. But they've kind of been under the radar, maybe I haven't been paying attention. Maybe I've been paying attention to the wrong stuff. Anyway, yeah, so his manager said that, and we looked up, and I saw it firsthand, man. Amazing. I might be going, if you're in that area around New Haven, Connecticut next week. Probably, I mean, if you're there, definitely check it out. Definitely get there for Tim and whatnot. But that's going to be pretty cool. I'm looking forward to doing that. I'm looking forward to traveling. And again, it's one of those things where you're going to get out and meet people. When you get depressed, get outside. Get out of bed, get out in the sun, see other people. If you're depressed, the worst thing you can do as soon as you wake up is check your phone. Don't do that shit. It's stupid. But, yeah, a lot of travels coming up. That's exciting. Pumpkin patches, a lot of good shows and whatnot. I had a meeting this week, too, believe it or not, with Congress. My friend, Congressman Derek Van Orden, who's a former Navy SEAL, Derek Van Orden, former Navy SEAL senior chief, congressman from Wisconsin. He chaired a meeting with, there was other congressmen there. Morgan Luttrell was there, great dude. My dear friend Ryan Zinke was there. A couple other veterans, veteran congressmen, and then Dr. Congressman. What we were, members of Congress, what we were talking about was, again, the psychedelics, cognitive rehabilitation, cognitive testing, different kinds of treatment for PTSD, for traumatic brain injury. Excuse me, I think I just burped in the damn microphone. Stuff that comes with war, stuff that comes with training for war, stuff that comes after war, and we're trying. The VA was there, and we, the representatives from the VA were mentioning a lot of the red tape and the roadblocks that come along with. We're trying to make changes. We're trying to do what works. I'm pushing the psychedelics, not necessarily just the psychedelics. I'm a big proponent of Ibogaine, which is not a psychedelic. It's a plant-based medicine from Gabon, which is you got that accent. Mm-hmm. Because they speak French there. It's in Africa, and it's a plant-based medicine that I think is a cure-all. Complete nightmare to go through. It's about 50 hours of darkness, but like 10 or 11 or 12 hours of insane nightmare darkness. Then you get done with that. I've talked about the psychedelic treatment before, so I'm not going to get too much into it. But when we have to go out of the country to do this. The reason we're talking to Congress and the VA and the other three-letter stuff, the FDA that gets involved, is we're trying to get it here in the United States, in the VA, so you don't need to go to Costa Rica to get treatment. So you can just do it at the VA where you are if you're a veteran. And I mean, I'd like to see it even, you don't even need to be a veteran, I think, to get this treatment. And part of the problem, too, is if more people did Ibogaine treatment, then there wouldn't be this craziness that we're talking about. A lot of people would actually... not be as nuts as they are, because there are nutsos out there. I mean, the internet definitely magnifies it, but there are crazy people. I mean, as you're walking outside at the pumpkin patch, there's going to be a crazy person. Shit, even when I talked to, believe it or not, I talked to one of, not personally, but through someone, one of the Bin Laden family, and the question was something like, "What's the deal with Osama?" And she said, "Well, you line up 10 of any family, you're going to have an asshole." Apparently, that was him. But I guess out in town also, there are assholes. But if more people did Ibogaine, there would be less craziness and less chaos. And chaos again, damn it. Less craziness, less division, and the government doesn't really want that because they thrive on that nonsense. And that's they do divide and conquer. That's how they maintain their power. But when we go out of the country, the Ibogaine is the first part. It knocks around everything, all the dark, deep shit. You even forgot the nightmares you can come up with. But then when you get done with that and you go through a gray day of about 24 hours and a little bit of like some Reiki type energy, well, not type, Reiki energy massage, then the last thing you do is 5-MeO-DMT, which is I think the most powerful psychedelic. And that comes from that toad with the big, like the huge sand toad that lives in the desert, like in Sonora. You ever had a Sonoran hot dog, by the way? Look that up, and if you can't get one, get the recipes and make that for yourself. So anyway, so the frog is in the deserts, and it comes out like a couple months a year, and they squeeze the little things, and then they get the 5-MeO-DMT. That is a psychedelic. That's what we finish up with. That one is intense. It's awesome. It's beautiful. It's the God molecule. That too is a life changer. Maybe 3 minutes of a very intense. As opposed to Ibogaine that takes you to hell, 5-MeO-DMT kind of lifts you off to the stratosphere and takes you a tour of the solar system and then of heaven. And like entities are speaking to you in languages you don't understand, but you know exactly what they're saying. It's almost like the only way I can describe DMT really is once you get to the Zen moment, it's more of everything that you knew isn't necessarily real, but you're home now, and everything is home there. And it's one of those things, I'm sure you've heard about it, where you can't quite describe it. You have to experience it yourself. And I'm assuming every experience is different, but you have to see it yourself or you wouldn't believe it. Kind of like Afghanistan, but like a completely different spectrum, because Afghanistan is like, if you need to know what Afghanistan's like, just find one of those old school outhouses and like jump head first into it. Brilliant. But the DMT is the end of the journey that we do as far as the veterans organizations. After you do Ibogaine, Reiki, and then DMT is the final one, and it's the one that makes everything come together. It's brilliant, and it's a lifesaver. I've had veterans tell me that if it wasn't for that treatment, they would have killed themselves next week. This is the last stop shop. So we made the legalized Ibogaine T-shirts to raise awareness that it's out there. Really comfortable shirts. RJO Apparel, we are selling those with percentages going towards Veterans Exploring Treatment Solution, vets.org. And then I just actually made these hats today, and this actually says DMT, which is a very cool hat. It's kind of cool. It looks like a certain golf hat, but it's not. It is an RJO Apparel hat that says DMT, and it's kind of cool. It's a conversation starter because someone could say it looks like something else, but that's not what it is. It is for DMT. Again, promoting awareness, because if nothing else, like I wear when I'm in certain places or go to different holistic stores and I wear an Ibogaine shirt, I always get a couple people that ask about it, and that's kind of what we're looking for. Just someone to ask, hey, what is that? What does it mean? Or if someone does, I've had dudes in coffee shops around different parts of the country say, I've heard of Ibogaine, or I have a friend that's done Ibogaine, and tell me more. That's kind of the conversation that I hope would spill into a bigger conversation. As far as, I don't know how many of you do call your congressmen or women, or if you even know who your congressman or woman is, if your congressperson is. But that conversation, you figure out it works not just for veterans, but for other people too. And it makes more sense than having a medicine box, medicine cabinet full of pills. This works. Conversation started, DMT at RJO Apparel. So that's where we're at right now. I had a great conversation there this week. And I think it's going in the right direction, but we are dealing with the United States government, so it's going to get slow rolled, especially when the men and women who were in the room today, I don't think their donors are in Big Pharma. Big Pharma is not a big fan of stuff that really works, that they don't get paid for. And this stuff is on the cheap, but they give you the excuse like, well, it's a club drug. This is the furthest thing from a club drug. If you've ever taken Ibogaine or know someone who has, ask what would happen if you took Ibogaine and an hour later went to a club. Yeah, you're going to have a really bad night. if you live through it. So not a club drug, complete treatment. And I do need to caveat that also by saying that when we say legalize Ibogaine, we say we would like it to be legally administered by medical professionals. Very important to be in a safe place. And if you have a medical professional who knows how to administer Ibogaine, they also, I'm not even making this up, they also have a really good playlist, not even kidding, that they play for you while you're in the moment, and it kind of makes it a little bit more intense. So that's where we're at. We want to get it legalized here in the VA and then in other places too. But also hit me up in the comments, and I will have ways to get you in touch with people and the companies that can get you if you would like the treatment, which I highly recommend. So out and about, election year. I really don't want to get political because I don't have too much fun with it. But with everything that's going on, I think that it's always, this is the most important election of our time. The stakes are very high here now, especially. I get hit up all the time. Why are you going to vote for Donald Trump? Why are you against this? And my reason, because I always say to people too, like, you don't like Donald Trump. Tell me why, other than name calling. Just tell me what you don't like about his policies. With Kamala Harris, fine. You don't like her, tell me why. Or you do like her, tell me why. You like her, why? What are her policies? And I don't want to hear this bullshit about joy. And I was raised in a middle-class family, and my values haven't changed. What are you going to do, man? Just tell me what you're going to do. Whenever someone's, you know what else you can tell too? Just pay. If you're watching cable news, which if you want to be happy, don't. Try to get your news from me. We'll have fun. But whenever you hear someone say, well, we've always been very clear, that means I've always been completely full of shit. Well, we've been very clear. No. Or, well, I was just or here's another one too. You notice this one? Well, you know what? Really, that is a heck of a great question. And gee golly, I'm so happy you asked. That's buying time because I don't know what I'm talking about. But my big thing is when they ask why Trump, I say the border, period. That's it. Energy is obviously a very, very close second. The border. You gotta close the border, man. This is ridiculous. Terrorists are getting in right now, and it's all because of politics, and it's bullshit. And the problem is, I know what these people are like, and I don't want you to know what they're like. But they're here, and they're starting to eke into places where people who normally vote for leftist cause are starting to feel it too. So, I just hope. Not to get morbid, and we're going to be done with this, but I really hope you never find out what it's like to be alone with one or two or three of these people, because they're not here because they like you, and they're not here for joy. And all this, this brings me around to, I need to mention our sponsor, very important sponsor of the show too. I can't tell you enough how much, you don't need to tell me that life is precious, that it could all be taken away in an instant. That's why I personally, and for my family, I keep a 4-week emergency food kit from My Patriot Supply in my home. It's in my storage. And I've mentioned before, I've sent them around the country to family members all over the place. I'm not going to get into where they are, but I send them there and they have them. It's got everything my family needs during a crisis with over 2,000 calories per day. There's enough to go around during times of social unrest, which we're seeing, government crackdowns, if you can imagine, or God forbid, an attack on the homeland. And I bring that up with the border. I don't want it to come here, but it's coming. This food lasts up to 25 years, ready whenever disaster strikes. We've seen mass panic in our lifetimes before. Actually, some were not that long ago. You probably remember, 2020. I'm not going to take my family's safety for granted anymore. Are you? Right now, you can get $50 off the same 4-week emergency food kit that I keep in my garage. Go to my favorite website, preparewithrob.com. Go to preparewithrob.com and save $50 on your 4-week emergency food kit, and My Patriot Supply will send it over as fast as humanly possible. Trust me, I know, because I ordered mine. I got it the next day, and it's shipped for free. You can get your 4-week emergency food kit, and I'm telling you to do this. Preparewithrob.com. Go to preparewithrob.com. The peace of mind of having it right there. I'm telling you, the food is delicious. It's there for 25 years if you need it. Preparewithrob.com. But as much as I like to say that we're not going to cover the election too much, we have to. It's very important. It does get it gets depressing, but some of the nonsense that happens out there, because you got to figure the way I mentioned that I was talking with members and staffers and all kinds of stuff this week in DC. A lot of people have handlers out there and advisors or whatever. And the thing with the joy and the hope and the I have never changed my values, we're not necessarily getting substance. And the one that, or we're getting, and they don't like to say lies. What do they call it? Misinformation or what? I hate that shit too. The only thing I hate worse than the term misinformation is nothing burger. That makes me want to punch you in the nothing face. Not you, the guy that said it, but the nothing burger piss. But misinformation. But it's all spin, and it's all how you can word it. Here's what we talk about stolen valor quite a bit too, and that can be a serious thing. And I'm not sure this is stolen valor, but I heard a rumor that Kamala Harris lied about working at McDonald's. That hits me at home, man. That was to this day, my favorite job when I worked at McDonald's. I started at McDonald's in Butte, Montana, 15 years old, and it was a hoot. I worked with my sister Chris. I worked with my brother Tom. I worked with my cousin Corey. These are all O'Neills. I worked with a lot of friends that are still friends right now. Who else worked there with me? I know some of the people that I filmed a commercial with Michelle, who I worked with, and we just filmed it like last December up in Butte, Montana. I've worked with her when we were 16 or 17, high school for sure. And it's funny to see, but some of the stories, like the reason I don't think you can stolen valor McDonald's is because like some of the stories, some of the shit that happens to, because you got to think about this. Here's how cool, because I'm a big believer if you should be able to teach someone how to do their job, teach them how to do their job and let them do it, let it eat. Don't micromanage. And that's kind of what McDonald's does. Because if you think about this, that major restaurant is basically run by teenagers, or it was when I did it. Now it's like everyone needs a living wage. I can't support my family of four by working counter. Well, you're not fucking supposed to. Okay, work there in high school and then move on. Anyway, it should be run by teenagers, which is cool because even the managers, like my brother Tommy O, yeah, that guy, he was the manager at McDonald's. So what was he? So I was 15 or 16. He was maybe 20, 21. No, I stole his ID. He was definitely 21. But yeah, he was there. Chris was there. She worked the drive-thru. I worked counter. And counter was fun because that means I'm interacting with you. I'm your McHost. Like, what do you want with your fries type thing? Fries were fun. So when I move around a lot, I'm a sweater. I run hot, so I sweat. I remember one time at McDonald's, I was in the middle of a lunch rush or something. Like when you got a big, we call it in the biz, we call it a rush. And I walked over to get, like you got a fry guy, and the fry guy's making the fries, so they're in the thing. And I grabbed him because this dude obviously ordered number one extra supersized with the Coke. And I'm bringing his fries over, and I sweated, like it dripped down off my nose into the fries. And like we're both there looking at each other, and we had a moment of where he's thinking, "Is this little fucker gonna try to feed me those?" And I'm like, "Is this big fucker gonna notice?" And he noticed. So I chucked those and got him some new ones. So don't sweat in the fry. There was one time where so Chris was working drive-through. I am on the counter, and Tom is back in the back. He's the manager, doing whatever managerial. He's like waiting to tell someone to sweep and mop. Sweep and mop is what we called it then. It's a sweep and swab in the Navy. But somebody dropped one of those McDonald's barbecue sauce. By the way, come on, fairy dust, baby. That's the greatest stuff ever. But they come in those little carts, those little packets, and we used to keep the McNuggets in a fried drawer. Like you open a drawer, here's all the deep fried nuggets made of pure chicken. And someone dropped a carton on the floor, a little packet of barbecue sauce. So I'm over here. Chrissy's coming in from the drive-thru, and Melissa is over. I can see this story. She's waiting on a dude. So she's working counter. Barbecue sauce is here. Chrissy's coming in hot to grab something because you got the kick-ass headset. This is way before we all had phones and shit with headset. Like, so you got a headset, man. You're either flying a plane or you're working the drive-thru. And so she comes rolling over, and she stepped on that packet of barbecue sauce, and it spit out perfectly, and it hit the dude that Melissa was waiting on right in his, basically in his pocket. And Tom had come around the corner to the manager, and he's obviously going to have someone's ass But he also doesn't want to piss the customer off, so he tries to make light of it. So he reached in the drawer of the nuggets and walked over and he dipped it in dude's pocket and got barbecue sauce on it. That was McDonald's. That's pretty fun. There was one time too, where I was working counter. And again, McDonald's delegates authority. I'm 15, 16 tops. And I had a dude ask me, hey, what kind of fish is in the filet of fish? Now, if you're ordering a filet of fish at McDonald's, I don't think you're that picky of a fisherman. But he said, what kind of fish is in the filet of fish? And I'm looking at this dude and I'm like, sea bass? And he goes, good, I'll take 2. And so that was, and I went back to see Tom afterwards and I said, you know what some jackass just asked me, Tommy? And he looks up from, he's counting tens or whatever, big bills, 1990s. And he goes, what? And I go, Tom was a dick. He was a dick back then. You know what some jackass just asked me? And he goes, what? And I said, he asked me what kind of fish was in the filet of fish. And Tommy said, it's North Atlantic cod, dude. And I'm like, oh my God, you're such a McDork. Can I go on break? But he knew. And there was a time also, this is way before the, I'm not sure this is appropriate, but this is way before the hashtag Me Too, because there was a girl that I still know now who's hilarious. Stacy Keefe, I'm giving you a shout out. Hilarious. Always has been. Funny as hell. Stacy Keefe is hilarious. And if you can find her on social media, follow her. She's got some funny stuff. But she has always been, I don't know how you say, for men you would say well endowed, but she was well endowed. And when Tom introduced me to her, he said, hey, hey Rob, here's the new girl. I believe her name is Stacy Boom Boom Keefe. Like, I don't think but we didn't, that was back in McDonald's before we had all the classes on harassment and whatnot. But yeah, anyway, so Kamala Harris is saying she worked at McDonald's and she may not have. So I'm not even sure where to go with that one. And here's what else is, I guess it's troubling if you pay attention. What they're doing right now, the deep state, what they're bragging about is all of the support for Kamala Harris right now. There's over 740 retired military leaders, generals. I love when they throw in the term public servants. If you're making millions off the taxpayer, you're not a public servant, by the way. But that's what a lot of these people do. Kamala Harris was also endorsed by the tax collectors, the IRS. What does that tell you? The IRS endorsed Kamala Harris. What does that tell you right now? Working for the middle class. The IRS wants Kamala Harris to be president. Wrap your little mind around that. Why? So they can tax you more. Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney endorsed Kamala Harris. Why do you think that is? Why do you think they're all doing this? Is it for democracy? Is that what it is? Is the deep state, everyone in D.C. endorsing Kamala Harris for democracy because they don't want authoritarianism? Or, and I'm just spitballing here, do you think it's because he's the only person that will uncover what they've been up to forever? Exactly what they've been up to forever. All these, I don't know if you've been around generals very often. There's a lot of ego involved. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know some generals that are great people. I do. I know actually a couple of them, generals and admirals. So I'm not trying to broad brush it, but there is some ego involved because it takes a lot to get to that level. I mean, I've never been close to that level. To get to the general officer level takes a lot. You got to be squared away. You got to do the right thing. You got to get. You got to play the game though. You got to toe the party line. I've been asked before, why are so many general officers Democrats? Well, because they want to work for big-time contractors. They want to stay in D.C. They want to make a shit ton of money when they leave the Army, when they leave the Navy. Not all of them do, but a lot of them do. A lot of them, they stay in their specific line of expertise, which is war, which is contract for war. Why do you think we're always at war? Why do you think they're always scaring us? Why do you think there's always a threat of war or there is a war? Why do you think we always leave all of our stuff behind so we can make more? Did you ever seen the video of them pushing helicopters off of carriers in Vietnam? No big deal. Why? Well, we'll make more. We'll make more. That's not a big deal. Why do we leave everything in Afghanistan? Well, we'll just make more. And I mean, you leave the Pentagon, you do your 30 years or whatever, boom, right over to Raytheon, right over to Lockheed. And again, I mean, those companies, when I needed their technology, they're awesome. And I'm not trying to badmouth anyone. I'm just telling you why they do it. Because if we get someone in the office that, I don't know, stops wars, what do we do with those contracts? Now, granted, that just because a war ends doesn't mean a contract ends, but well, what if we can't get another one? They're trying to do it now. They're trying to push more now. And you're going to, you know what's coming up soon, too, is when you hear the thing with, well, we need to pass this budget so the government doesn't shut down. Okay, why? Shut that fucker down. Who cares? Shut the government down. Well, we can't pay the military. Okay, here's an answer. Pay the military then. Shut down the EPA. Shut down the IRS. Well, we can't pay cops. We'll pay cops. I thought we were going to defund the police anyway. Pay the cops, pay the military, shut the government down. Let them figure it out till Elon Musk comes in and just cleans house. He cleaned house at Twitter. They're doing our X. Shit, he saved money by taking some letters off. It's just X. But you can see it now, too. I mean, as a registered independent, I need to caveat that. Remember when the Democrats were anti-war? Just completely anti-war? Now they're the party of war. They love Ukraine. They love that shit. Did you see Josh Shapiro is the governor of Pennsylvania, and he was in Scranton, Pennsylvania, which kicks ass, by the way. Scranton is awesome. Love Scranton. Got to get back. I think my company's going to do their next offsite there simply because I need to get some pictures of where the office was. But he was in Scranton, Pennsylvania at a munitions factory, Joe Biden's hometown, and he was literally signing bombs. Josh Shapiro was signing bombs that are going to be dropped on Russians. Signing them. And everyone's behind it. Oh, shit, guess who else was there? Vladimir Zelensky. Volodymyr Zelensky was there. And he was saying that Donald Trump doesn't know how to end the war. No, he knows exactly. Donald Trump will end the war. And then Volodymyr Zelensky's wife won't be able to buy $1 million worth of jewelry when she visits New York City like she does. She's buying it with your money. But Trump ends the war. Zelensky's not getting paid anymore. He's there. He's laughing. He's back there yakking it up with Senator Bob Casey, another Democrat from Pennsylvania. They're back there laughing, and Shapiro's signing, and he's shaking hands with Zelensky as they're doing. And there was Representative Matt Cartwright. He's in attendance. And you know what he said? Here's a Democrat representative from Pennsylvania as they're making. First of all, I thought we were supposed to be giving him the old bombs, aren't we? But we sent like 3. These are 155 millimeter shells they're making, but we've already given them 3 million of those things. That's all. That's a big boom. 3 million, 155. Someone do the math. And Representative Matt Cartwright said, "Thank you, and we need more." We do. For more war, we need war, and he's over there signing them, laughing. I mean, who's going to get hit with these bombs? We're moving into Russia. What if they drop them on? I thought they were innocent kids and families. What? So Josh Shapiro signs a bomb that gets dropped on a family. That's cool. Party of war, baby. That's when did war become like a memorabilia auction? Just up there laughing and signing a fucking bomb. Do you see what's happening? While Shapiro was there, Philadelphia is a city in Pennsylvania. Shapiro's a governor. I'm not sure if you knew that. Did you see what's going on in Philly? It looked like a scene out of World War Z. Just surrounding cop cars, people running everywhere. Complete. I didn't use the word. I've already said chaos like 5 times. Just complete madness. It's horrible. Wide open borders. We're signing bombs, praising war. The Cheneys love you. If the Cheneys love you, you're going to go to war. You know why? Because they're going to get paid. You know how much money Dick Cheney made off the war? You know what? P. Diddy had so much oil in his house. I'm amazed we didn't invade it when Cheney was in office. Just follow the money, follow the invasions, see who's going to get paid. That's kind of what it's all about too. It does come back to personal power and wealth for a lot of these people. They're gonna tell you what you want to hear. They do it every time, every election cycle. You've seen it. I am assuming you've seen it, and that's just much of the same. That's where we're headed. And speaking of war, okay, so up in New York, where I spent a lot of time, the UN is in New York. If you don't know that, the UN's headquarters is in New York. Complete waste of prime time real estate, especially with a city that's hurting as bad as they are. New York City, as far as financially, that real estate right there, you could do a bunch with it, but instead bring hundreds of delegates, anti-Americans, just to live there, trash our country, and use up our Secret Service too. By the way, they're doing that. They're using our Secret Service to protect them. When at the same time they're saying that they can't staff enough for former President Trump to go to Wisconsin was the big one. Kamala Harris just did an event in Wisconsin, But President Trump can't because the Secret Service says they can't man it. And if you know, Wisconsin is one of those states that they call a swing state, that you would hope everyone can campaign it, because Donald Trump, the Secret Service is recommending Donald Trump doesn't go campaign there, but Kamala Harris does go there, and she's fine. The point I'm making is 2024, the Secret Service should be able to protect, especially the two major candidates for president. They should be able to, but there has been 2 assassination attempts. One assassin, as you know, hit President Trump in the ear, but we don't talk about that anymore, to the point where the 3-letter agencies are arguing whether or not he was hit with a bullet or a fragment of a bullet, a heroic American was killed at one of those rallies where the Secret Service slipped up or was in on it or was just incompetent, and a great man died in front of his family. And then another attempt where a guy laid in wait at Mar-a-Lago for 12 hours. We didn't see that because it's a bush. I mean, why would we check a bush? But yeah, they're saying President Trump can't go there. Kamala Harris can. And then when she goes there, she went on, I want to say she went on something like Wisconsin Public Radio. Wow. That's not your base. If I was running for office, I think what I would want to do is tell you my positions and then repeat them. I want to tell you what I'm going to do, and then I want to repeat them and let you know what you're going to do, because I'm afraid that at this day and age, a lot of people are just comfortable. A lot of people want to live on their phones and live online, live on social media, and that's, people want to do that. If you want to be one of those people that the government wants to be, you will own nothing and be happy. You can do that. That's where they're aiming. I mean, if you look at all the programs, they're trying to make you dependent on them so they can expand their power. That's why they tell migrants, come to the United States and work, and then the migrants get here and there is no work, but they give them vouchers worth 3 times the rent, so then the migrants can live there for free, and the Americans can't afford it anymore, so who are you going to depend on for housing? Well, the government, again. That's why they're doing what they do. But, so Secret Service can't defend them, can defend the UN in New York, and then in New York. So if you've never been to Manhattan, it's a very tall city, not a big like long city, but it's tall, and it's got a lot of traffic. You've seen pictures, and when the UN and all of their protection, and I don't know why a lot of these people need protection, but they got it. And the streets are clogged as it is, because the streets are kind of shit there anywhere in New York, because what they did is they started taking away lanes for cars because the environment. And they started putting like bus lanes and bike lanes, and there's like 1 lane per way for cars. Those bike lanes are dangerous too. Have you noticed people have been cheating on scooters and bikes? They're not bikes. They're actually motorized bikes and scooters that fly up and down about 50 miles an hour. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to go look for bike lane fails. Maybe there's some good stuff going on there. But it's clogged. So then you get the UN in there. President Biden, same time, he's rolling through New York, clogged. You know who else is in New York? Is a guy by the name of Tim Walz. He's the vice presidential candidate for the Democrats. Complete communist. You know why he's in New York? To meet with George Soros' kid. That's cool. Why would you want to meet with George Soros? Oh, because he pretty much funds everything. When they tell you, look at these amazing donations from these small donors, this is basically dark money. George Soros is behind a lot of that. I remember going into a major media building for cable news, and there were protests. There were protests every, I want to say, Wednesday out front of this place. Anti-Trump, anti-everything, anti-America. And I talked to one of my buddies who's a security guard, and I was like, what are they doing? Oh, they show up on this day, whatever, Wednesday or Thursday from like 9 to 4, and then they just leave at 4, and they're out there shouting. And I went outside to talk to them. And it was actually a day I ran into Michael Rappaport on the street. He's a funny dude, man. And he was BSing with them, and I went over to ask them why they were protesting. They said, well, it's $50. They don't care. They're doing it for money because some dark money's paying them to get attention. Have you noticed that at the Trump rallies, there's parking lots full of cars, but at the Harris rallies, there's just lines of buses? It's almost like they're being paid to get bussed in. Crazy. But yeah, Tim Walz is there to talk to George Soros, and then President Biden addressed the UN, which was, he's still the president of the United States, but it was so obvious. He got up in front of the UN. I think, obviously somebody else wrote this speech, and then he rehearsed it probably 5 or 10 times, and then he got out and just read it. Didn't really know what he was saying. He's talking to the UN about the, I don't know, if catastrophic effects of climate change, which, yeah, people dying all over because of climate change. Not at all, but fentanyl they are. But don't bring that up. But yeah, the devastation of climate change. And he actually brought up how he was a peace president and he got us out of Afghanistan, the longest war since Vietnam, and we had to get out, and he got us out. He actually did mention for the first time 13 brave Americans who lost their lives because of that complete shit show. Didn't mention them by names, but I think that's the first time President Biden mentioned 13 Americans that were killed. And it's a talking point for him. Those are 13 families never get their loved ones back, but it was a political stance to get out before 9/11 of that year, and complete shit show of a withdrawal. Embarrassing. And he said, I think he said sort of, I think of them every day. He kind of mumbled it, stuttered it, but I know what the people who wrote it meant for him, but he's not going to call them. And that's what's going on at the UN. Tim Walz is there, the president's there, the UN's in there. It's going to be a shit show in New York. You know what I was wondering? I'm on the speaking circuit too, and I travel around and give public speeches, and I'll get into that if you guys want to hear the process of how that goes. It's actually pretty entertaining. I was initially, when I started speaking, I was kind of surprised at how it went down, and you can have fun. It can get exhausting, but a lot of politicians try to get into public speaking after they're done with politics, and nobody wants to hire them, really, and they're shocked. Same with a lot of generals. Nobody wants to hire them. And I've talked to several speaking agencies, and they said, yeah, what they'll say is, well, people always listen to me speak. And they're like, well, yeah, because they had to. Like, if you're a general and show up to speak, like, people aren't paying to hear you speak. You're just there. You're not interesting. You're just there. Same with a lot of politicians. I wonder if because, like, the Obamas probably have hefty speaking fees, but they can both speak. And they're articulate and probably entertaining. Star power, stuff like that. I want to see if Joe Biden's able to do that. I don't think. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me because there's different ways you can funnel money into different places. One being, I don't know, art. Maybe you're an artist and you start selling shit for hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you can show up and, I mean, even just appearance fees. So who knows? It'll be interesting to see. But yeah, that's all kind of stuff too. And then just with the politics, everything we're hearing about there, we can't get any policy out of the Harris, Biden, or whatever administration. All that they seem to say is they mention they call it women's health care, obviously, and you know what I'm talking about. I was not aware that there's an epidemic of women dying because they can't get abortions. I was not aware of that, but apparently that's what they say. And there's a whole bunch of stepfathers raping their 12-year-olds, and they need abortions, and the evil Americans are standing in the way of that. But that's their stance. That's what they say. I didn't know that. If I'm wrong, I'll happily stand corrected. But these are just the political games that are played this time of year. And it's an election season, but like I've mentioned, I think I've been doing this podcast about 2 years. It's always an election season. It's always these talking points. It's always the pack the court, the filibusters, make this, it's an expansion of power. And I really hope people are paying attention to what's going on around them, because everyone gets to vote. I mean, I was with, I might have told the story last week. My daughters are in the service industry because they're at that age. And my daughter said, yeah, I had a guy ask me, what's the difference between a ribeye and the bone-in ribeye? And all my daughter could think of was, oh my God, this guy's vote counts exactly the same as my vote. The difference is the bone in the ribeye. But then they start sneaking stuff in there. They talk about unrealized gains on your investment. Unrealized gains are going to tax you're taxed on everything, by the way. You're taxed on the money that you make. You're taxed on the money that if you pay someone, you're taxed. Everywhere you go, there's taxes. Look at it. A lot of gas prices are really expensive for a number of reasons. One of them is the taxes that are on them. But now they want to, something that you haven't even made yet, but the IRS knows what you're going to make, so we're going to tax it on. You think if they tax your unrealized gains and then your stocks plummet, is the government just going to reimburse you? You probably won't see that check in the mail, but they're talking about that stuff too. And even now, I guess the cost of living is up $1,000 a month for necessities. That's tough. And the way I think we're spending, what is it, $1 trillion every 100 days on our debt and deficit. If that gets to a certain level, man, this is going to collapse. And you got to think about this. If you've been paying into Social Security and you're about my age, I'm 48, and that's kind of your retirement plan, that ain't going to be there, man. You keep voting for these communists, That's not going to be there. And you keep believing in this price gouging and the taxes everywhere on every, like even property that you own, you're still paying property tax. Stuff you own, it's an overreach. Our founding fathers fought a war for a lot less than this. If Thomas Jefferson knew what we were going to be doing now in 2024, maybe they just would have said, 2% is not that bad. But that's not where we want to be. We fought a war for this, and now it's just followed us here. And because of the useful idiots is what the communists call them, we're voting our way right back into this. It's not even the policies. It's people just voting for their parties. And that two-party system is horrible. And I just kind of hope you wouldn't fall into that. I know where I'm going to be. And I'm not asking you to just blindly follow me, but just look around, do a little research and see what's what. See who's doing what and why. It's like when they say tax cuts for the wealthiest. That's what they say. And there are tax loopholes, obviously, for very successful people. But to hear your fair share, and people just think, just tax the rich and we'll be fine. No, you won't, because the rich are the ones that own the companies and they're going to raise the prices. It's just that simple. If you think, just, and I'm not an economist. I like to think I can think, and maybe I'm wrong again. That's why we have the comment section. So tell me if I'm wrong. But imagine if you got a tax cut instead of the inflation that's way up. $1,000 a month is what they're saying. I remember when we were at SEAL Team 6 and they gave us $1,000 a month raise. They called it Save Pay for Tier 1 guys. That was huge. I couldn't imagine making the money I made in the Navy and have it be worth $1,000 a month less. That's just nuts. But if you think about it this way, and leftists will argue with it because this, God forbid, capitalism and a free market. But imagine if you made $300 more a month. You're going to spend that immediately. That's going to go right into the economy. And if everybody does that, businesses get more money. What do? They make more product, they hire more people. It's not hard to understand. However, if you're sitting at home on your lazy ass playing Grand Theft Auto and looking at Philadelphia that looks just like Grand Theft Auto, you probably won't care. As long as they don't, that's the whole thing. Just keep you to a level where you don't necessarily, and I'm not saying revolt, but just pay attention to maybe vote for an issue and not just a party. But they're trying to keep you away from that, and that's just depressing, but we're not going to get into that right now. Everyone else is talking politics. I don't want this to be that kind of a podcast, but we always wander into it. What I want to talk about here, this is because it's whatever. Like I said about the pumpkin patch, outside people can agree, and that's fun. And that's what I want us to be, just friendly and fun. So I read a story that I want to get your opinion on. You may have heard of it. This is the first time I've heard of this disease called rhabdomyolysis. And apparently that's a thing where if you work out too hard, if you strain your muscles or go over the limit or dehydration or whatever, it breaks down your muscles and it gets into your bloodstream and it could be deadly. Rhabdomyolysis could shut down organs, shut down your kidneys. If your kidneys shut down, you die. A lot of times, I don't know if you know this, and again, I'm not an economist, I'm not a doctor. If organs start shutting down, that's when you die, not good. But here's the story that I read. Up at Tufts University, which has a kick-ass lacrosse team. They've won a few national championships. I believe it's Division III. I don't have notes in here, and I'm surprised I can pronounce rhabdomyolysis. I hope I'm saying it right. Please correct me in the comments at Mikuya or the Operator Podcast. But I guess, and lacrosse players are studs. I don't know if you know that. I found that out when I left Montana for the Navy. Complete bubble. I thought there was football and basketball and baseball. I wasn't aware of lacrosse, which is a badass sport. And I met a lot of lacrosse players. A lot of lacrosse players became Navy SEALs because they're tough dudes. But a dude from Tufts University went to basic underwater demolition SEAL training. I'm not sure which class it was, but he graduated and went back to Tufts recently, a few days ago, and he worked out about 50 players from the lacrosse team, and I want to say 12 were hospitalized. 3 as of this are still hospitalized for rhabdomyolysis after a 45-minute voluntary supervised workout. So guys are in the hospital, and it's not cool, but I'm just wondering what kind of a workout it was for 45 minutes. Now, you can do some intense workouts for 45, like some really good CrossFit workouts, like 20 minutes if you're intense. Like if you do 20 minutes of burpees, God bless you. But like SEAL training, when I went through it, this is 1996. It was 1996, it isn't now. Newsflash. But when I went through, you got to figure. So for SEAL training to get to the 4 a.m. workout, you're waking up at 3:30, me about 3:15 because I had to put on sunscreen. 4 a.m. workout, and then it's a mile-ish to the chow hall, back and forth 3 miles, 3 meals is 6 miles a day. Then you're working out. So we'll say it's 3:15 in the morning till you're done a little bit after dinner. So maybe in bed by 9, do it again. That's a lot. And then Hell Week is, maybe you've heard of Hell Week, start on Sunday and sometime on Friday. A minimal sleep, maybe a total of 4 hours in 120 hours. And nobody I've heard of had a rhabdomyolysis. I'm just saying that word. They call it rhabdo, not me. I'm not shortening that bad boy. I want to sound smart. But yeah, they hospitalized. So I'm wondering, what kind of a workout did they do that was supervised? What were they doing? Try to find out. Because I was saying, this is just me talking. At 48 years old, don't hold me to this, but for 45 minutes, I think I could stand on my head and hum Anchors Away while eating dirt for 45 straight minutes and not end up in the hospital. But we got to find out what happened there. I know they're studs. Who did what and why, and who was supervising? It was a bad leadership. Were these badass athletes just out the night before? Because I know how you do. Were you out of shape? I guess this comes from not being out of shape and then just running back into it, which a lot of people on the internet, they do. I have friends that are intense at working out, and when I go around the country and talk to people face to face, they're like, yeah, I'm following so-and-so, and I'm doing his workout, and I'm like, you might want to stop because he's a freak and you're not. And a freak in a good way. You might be a freak, but there's like less than 1% of people that can do that kind of shit. Anyway, I'm not sure that that's them, but if we could find out what they were doing, I would like to know that. So stay hydrated. Maintain your physicality in the off season, and if you do not stand on your head eating dirt, you're never out of the fight.